Hello everyone, especially if you're a viewer of From the Star Wars Home Video Library. I am Nathan P. Butler. This is my YouTube channel where you'll find at this point over 800 videos, the vast majority of which are in some form related to Star Wars, whether we're talking vlogs from the Star Wars Home Video Library, the now on hiatus indefinitely From the Star Wars Library, Fantasy Flight Games, reviews, or whatever, live streaming and things like that. You'll find a lot of cool stuff if you're a Star Wars fan here. This video is a relatively short one just to very quickly announce that the time has come, for those who have been waiting for it and following the channel for a while. The book has finally arrived. So if you're a fan of Star Wars Home Video, you're going to like this one. This video is just going to be a quick overview of what it is and what's in it, and it'll be followed by other videos in the near future with sort of a behind-the-scenes look at things, answering questions, getting your opinion about certain things, and so forth relating to the book. But the book in question is right here. There's a proof copy finally in my hands. It's just gone up for full sale. I don't even have a non-proof copy in my hand yet. See, proof there on the last page. This is my new book, A Saga on Home Video, A Fan's Guide to U.S. Star Wars Home Video Releases. And yes, you're seeing right with the cover there. It is designed to look like an old-school VHS tape. Not just the cover, though. The spine, right down to having a little block there, if you can see it with the light there. You know, the kind of thing you'd have to take out to make sure no one could record over your video. And then on the back, yes, it does look like the back of a VHS, albeit stylized. And in general, the text to this, giving you a sense of what's going on here on the back, says, "For 4 decades, the Star Wars saga has captivated us in both theaters and at home on the small screen. Never before has one volume attempted to provide an extensive guide to all the saga's various releases for home viewing. From Super 8 to VHS, from DVD to Blu-ray 3D, this unofficial guide to U.S. Star Wars home video releases will thrill and enlighten fans both new and old. With over 300 images from the author's own personal collection, this is a definitive work of fan scholarship on Star Wars home video collecting's first 40 years. That's right, this is designed to basically cover from May 1977 through May of 2017 as we look at Star Wars on home video from the United States. What you have here is a pretty extensive guide. It's written as a history. It's not just one of these product guides that basically just says, here's what the product is, and here's a picture. Now here's another. Now here's a picture. Isn't this nice to see pictures and titles with absolutely no information? Yeah, I don't like those types of guides. I'm a historian at heart. So what you have here essentially is a book that takes you through the development of Star Wars on home video, starting with the live-action films and eventually moving into the spin-offs like the cartoon series and such, giving you a sense of not only how those evolved over time, but the different releases that mark important milestones in that development. And when it comes to U.S. releases, you're looking at something very extensive. I won't say exhaustive. I'm sure there's something that hasn't been touched upon, but an extensive guide of a massive, massive library of releases that give you a sense of how it's all developed. Whether we're talking about VHS, Super 8, CED, the brief look at VHDs from Japan. I mean, there's a lot of different types of home video releases that are covered in here. The primary focus is the U.S., but there are some sidebars to touch on some foreign releases as well, just to kind of give you a sense of what to expect. So, let's run down what the chapters are, so you kind of know what to expect from those, and let's run down what those 4 sidebar types are before I let you know where to find this thing. Chapter-wise, you start out, of course, with acknowledgments and whatnot, and your introduction. The introduction, the making of a collection, gives you a sense of how I got into this, why the book was written, and what to expect from the other chapters. Then we have Chapter 1, Glimmers of Hope, 1977 to 1980. That's all the stuff prior to there being any full versions of the Star Wars films released on home video. So in that case, we're talking more home viewing than home video, more like home film. And you're going to see Super 8 coverage in there and the Star Wars Movie Viewer from Kenner, those cartridges. That brings us to Chapter 2, The Great Format War, 1982 to 1992. That is your early releases of the Star Wars films on home video, as we see A New Hope, and then The Empire Strikes Back, and then eventually Return of the Jedi on home video. And this takes us basically up through 1992 when you see the first VHS widescreen release, a few years after the first widescreen release on Laserdisc in the U.S. But that's going to be covering CED and Laserdisc and VHS and Betamax. And in that chapter, it will also take a brief detour and a sidebar to look at the Japanese VHD format. Then we get Chapter 3, the original, One Last Time, right, which is 1993 to 1995, the definitive collection Laserdiscs and the THX remastered editions that were spawned off of it. Then we jump off from there to See It Again for the first time, right? Chapter 4 for 1997. That is the initial release of the special editions on home video. Bringing us to the rather large chapter, Chapter 5, Rise of DVD, Demise of VHS, 2000 to 2010. That's going to take us through exactly what it sounds like, the last of VHS releases and the initial launch of DVD, but ends prior to us seeing HD releases on home video, which is the next chapter, Chapter 6, the Lucas Films in HD, 2008 through 2015. In that case, it briefly touches on Clone Wars as a starting point, but sticks with the live-action films for the most part, which then brings us to Chapter 7, Enter Disney, 2016 to 2017, which is primarily focused on The Force Awakens and Rogue One home video releases. Then, once we're done with all of those live-action films, we jump into Chapter 8, Droids, Ewoks, and a Guy Named Gindi, 1990 to 2005, which is going to be home video releases of the Ewok telemovies, Ewok cartoon, Droids cartoon, and the Clone Wars microseries by Genndy Tartakovsky. Which brings us to Chapter 9, Rewriting the Clone Wars, 2008 to 2014. Yes, that's where we're looking at the Clone Wars television series from Cartoon Network that had Ahsoka and Rex and so forth. Which brings us to Chapter 10, Joining the Rebellion, 2014 to 2017, looking at the first couple of seasons released thus far on home video of Star Wars Rebels. Then Chapter 11, Brick by Brick, 2005 to 2016. That's going to be coverage, you probably guessed it by now, of the LEGO Star Wars home video releases. Which brings us to then sort of a catch-all chapter that's not quite as designed to be comprehensive so much as just extensive, which is Behind the Scenes and Other Oddities, 1979 to 2016. So we're talking behind-the-scenes things are in there, screeners are in there, weird things like PVDs for the Video Now system are in there, lots and lots of different stuff, all kind of wrapped up in a massive, massive chapter there. And then we move on to Chapter 13, where it stops looking at products and gives you tips for Star Wars home video collecting, pieces of advice, things I found useful over the years. And then that brings us to Chapter 14, a checklist of items discussed. Yes, almost 20 straight pages of checklists to help you with your own collection, right down to product numbers to help you find them in back catalogs and the like. And as you're reading, as it said, we're talking extensive photographs throughout to give you a chance to see these products and in some cases see direct comparisons. Like, for instance, here, this is page 40 and 41, looking at the 1990 and 1992 VHS boxed sets. And you have a comparison here of what the set backs look like, what the sets look like from the side, from the top, the packaging where you can see the CBS Fox versus Fox Video logo, and since they changed the placement of where the Star Wars title was on A New Hope on the front of the VHS cases between 90 and 92, a comparison of placement there on the bottom. Lots of comparison images, lots of product images. Almost every single product that is discussed in any way winds up with a picture or more than one picture to help detail it. When it's something unusual, it goes into more depth. For instance, pictures to compare what a CED looks like when it's out of the caddy versus what you would see from a VHD in the same form. And of course, everything that is mentioned within those first 12 chapters prior to the tips chapter wind up in that checklist. It is about as extensive and exhaustive guide as could be made at this point in time, I think, for such a thing for US releases, and there are 4 types of sidebars. You have Forever Tinkering. That's what it sounds like. It's basically quick little opinion pieces that instead of laying out every single change made from one version of the films to the next, like regular version, oh, and then there's a special edition, then the DVD version, now the Blu-ray version, doesn't go into specifics about every change or anything like that. That's extensively documented online in plenty of different places. Instead, it's an opinion piece on how this was seen by fans and was seen by me in particular. Sort of a sense of, is this the one I would want to watch if given the choice? Then, taking an opposite tack that is very exhaustive, you get changes for better and or worse. Yes, better and or worse as the title. And basically what that does is it takes the different episodes, for instance, of Clone Wars, or Droids, or Ewoks, of the different spin-off material that changed for home video release, or between home video releases, and extensively breaks all of that down, even in crazy minute detail of stuff that usually you wouldn't even notice. Like, hey, here's a shot that's missing in this one compared to when it was aired on television. Very, very extensive, because that stuff hasn't been documented online very much at all, as opposed to the changes to the films. Then you've got, meanwhile, in usually the United Kingdom or Japan, but there is some from Malaysia, because VCD is briefly touched on in here, In that case, what you've got there basically is some notable releases from outside the United States designed to give you some context of what else was going on in the world, and in some cases, releases outside the United States that help give us a sense of how those markets differed from ours, to give us context, again, for ours. And then we have another last type in here, which is known as For a More Digital Age, which is basically looking at digital releases and digital equivalents of some of the more recent home video releases to give you a sense of how the approach has been changing over the years as home video has developed, but so has the digital marketplace. It's not focused on the digital marketplace, but where there are noteworthy aspects of showing up digitally, it's in here. And in many cases, it's pointing out things like, yeah, it's pretty much what aired, but if you get the home video, you've got a different aspect ratio and stuff like that. Or pointing out things that are only available digitally, like right now, the Resistance series of LEGO Star Wars stuff that hasn't shown up, Resistance Rises. So, lots and lots of stuff. Runs about 285 pages. You add in the front material, it's more like 290, 295-ish. List price is $12.99, so it's about $4 less, $3 less than a lot of guides of this same 6x9 size in paperback. A lot of these scholarly works, like even the Sequart anthologies of essays that I have contributed to, those tend to be a few dollars more than this. And you can find it on 2 places as of right now, released in physical form. The easiest way to get it for most people will probably be to go to Amazon.com. Just do a search, A Saga on Home Video, you'll find it, and it even has Prime shipping available so that if you got Amazon Prime, you're not paying for shipping at all. If you want to be able to give me just a little bit more of a cut out of this, but honestly, I think it works either way, you can also go to CreateSpace.com and order it through there, though honestly, I don't think it's as user-friendly of an interface as Amazon, so Amazon is probably going to be the go-to for most people to pick this one up if you're going to pick this up. I hope you'll enjoy it. I hope you'll enjoy reading extensively about the history of Star Wars Home Video with its various sidebars and whatnot here. More information about the future of the publication and this perhaps as a product line and that sort of thing, behind the scenes of how it came together, why it came together, the way that it was formatted and all that kind of stuff in future videos here on the channel. But first, I just wanted to make sure you had a chance to see it. It is out. It is available. It is A Saga on Home Video, a fan's guide to U.S. Star Wars home video releases. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, be sure to leave a comment to give me a sense of what you thought about it. Thanks for watching, thanks for checking out the channel, may the Force be with you.